I want to see it come back, whatever it takes to bring it back, put some more life in this building. And I think it would do the community a whole lot of good, sure thing. I mean, it might bring outside people in here to do some work, some business. Yeah, I don't think it should be left like this. It's just too good. You know, and I look around the town when I go around, all these empty buildings, you could build some of this thing, put all them people in this building to produce and make money. Yep. And it's a good structure. It's stout. Sure is. You can put anything in here. Yep. I hate to see it like this. Kind of hurting. Mm-hmm.
Back in 1926, Sears wanted to open a distribution center in Memphis.
They come scout around, do it very, very quietly, and they look into the Crosstown neighborhood.
So in 1927, 2,000 men worked 24 hours a day, only stopping from midnight on Saturday to midnight on Sunday. The building was completed and operational in 180 days. That's almost unheard of. The original building was more than 650,000 square feet. The building included the retail store, the catalog distribution plant for like 7 states.
Sears at that time was a major catalog store. And to be able to have a distribution center here meant if you were living in Arkansas or Louisiana or Alabama, you took the Sears wish book and you filled out the form and you mailed it in, you were going to get your products that much quicker. I mean, it's a major economic development for the city.
My first day in this building, just before going to the first grade, my mother brought me down here from the Gregg School area on a streetcar, and we bought blue jeans. I'll never forget the smells in the building. They had a candy shop, peanuts and pecans.
Remember, when I first came here, Sears was probably the largest single employer in the city. We were the FedEx of Memphis at that time.
This is where I met my wife. Right here at this cash register.
There were always a lot of activities going on in the plant. A lot of the employees got together. We would have skits. We would have programs on July the 4th. We had contests.
They called all the managers and all the supervisors up to the 11th floor. Our general manager walked in and he read a letter to us that they were closing, that Sears was closing catalog. And to the people with families, or even if you weren't ready to retire, this was devastating news.
There were people that loved this property, loved this structure. People would stop me if they see me out in the yard cutting the grass, and they'd say, "Can you take me in there? I want to see that place. My grandfather worked there."
It was just a big, empty place. And so one day, I saw some young men, they were walking around, looking over the building across the church. I went across and introduced myself. "Are you trying to do something here?" And Chris Miner called me and said, "Yes, we are here. We're trying to do a feasibility study for that building."
So basically the conversation started out with, wouldn't it be cool if?
And it was purchased purely for a civic vision. No developer in their right mind would purchase this building.
We put together a development team and we started off with a year-long feasibility study that really looked at, can anything happen with this building? And if so, what? At the core of that was the arts, music, visual arts, performing arts, multidisciplinary. We also started Crosstown Arts, a nonprofit that was to facilitate the conversation, but at the same time begin to have events in the building, in the neighborhood, to bring people back to Crosstown. It was an initial effort about renovating a building, but it was also about building community.
Anyone who had real experience doing this would have just said it's a completely ridiculous idea. The building's too big, and everyone involved that had anything to do with the project on any level, they all share a little of that Memphis style of hardcore believing in something, regardless of how crazy it might seem on the surface.
In the initial introduction to the building, I think the emotion that sparked, the moment that Frank, he unlocked the door and you walk in, just a sensation of awe at the magnitude and scale, scope of this building.
By the end of the first year, we didn't have the words to apply vertical urban village. The only thing that we could say is beyond mixed use. And so it was less about simply retail and office and residential coexisting like a traditional mixed use approach, but it was more about recruiting tenants who actually wanted to be next to each other.
We did a back of the envelope and realized this can happen if these things work out, and there was a list of about 25 of them, then the project will happen. If any one of those things didn't work out, then the project won't happen, but there was a pathway forward.
With the organizations that we had, and Scott Morris as also a third-party advocate for the project. If we started in 2009, it was August of 2012 that we first officially announced to the public what we were up to.
I'll be probably too honest. When I was first approached with this opportunity, I was like, it's a great deal. It's good for the city. But this is going to be a humongous task. Being a native Memphian, I didn't want to be the one who stood in the way of this project getting done. And that's why I jumped on board real early, and with one meeting, I said, we're going to see what we can do.
This is one of the biggest projects I ever been on. I see the character they leaving in the building. There's a movement going on. Instead of tearing down some of your valuable properties, the building can be saved. I think you can bring it back and keep character in Memphis.
One of the most memorable moments in my life was when all 32 sources of financing, the attorneys for each of those different groups, sent out an email that said, we are ready to close. And it all happened within about 45 seconds.
As a young developer, understanding the power of inclusion and diversity and how that really impacts a product and the results of something being great, that's instrumental.
They were updating me periodically, and they say there are some things we're working on, and hopefully we're going to present them to our group and see what they will think of. And so when finally they say that there's a viable group that is going to pick up this building and willing to invest in it, I shouted hallelujah.
And I'll never forget, we were riding on the bus, we were bringing kids back to school, bringing them back home, and one of the younger ones comes up and he sits next to me, and he's looking at the building, and he says, Miss Jazzy, are we moving in that building? And I said, yeah, in a couple of months we're gonna move in that building. And he said, Miss Jazzy, does that building kind of, sort of belong to us? And I looked over and I could see that sign, yours/ours, down the side of the building. And truthfully, I was able to answer, yeah, it belongs to us.